The science and art of preventing disease, prolonging life, and promoting physical health and efficiency through organized community efforts for the sanitation of the environment, the control of community infections, the education of the individual in the principles of personal hygiene, the organization of medical and nursing services for the early diagnosis and preventative treatment of disease, and the development of the social machinery which will ensure to every individual in the community a standard of living adequate for the maintenance of health. Now, Charles Winslow in 1920 was tasked with defining public health, and those were the words he used. But what does that look like in practice? What is public health? It looks like enriching education and experience in our schools. It looks like safe, sound medical practices. It looks like evidence-based emergency practices. It looks like the prevention of death and disease, and the promotion of well-being, nutrition, and protective factors. Now, Winslow's definition may have been a paragraph long, but the effects that public health have could fill a library. All in all, public health's mission is about preventing death, disease, and injury while promoting well-being. In order to accomplish this, public health's themes are deeply rooted in social justice. That is, well-being of the people through egalitarian approaches rather than supporting market justice or broadening individual liberties. Public health is about us. It's about healthier communities that may require sacrifices of the individual, but the benefits often outweigh the costs. Let's take a closer look, shall we? There are many external components that affect our health, all of which we may be individually susceptible to, but collectively we can diminish. Among these, many are physical. This includes the pollutants in the air, this includes the purity and quality of our food, and even includes diseases, including our most recent pandemic like COVID. But some, however, are social. Social factors, derived from the very society we live in and have adapted to, have horrific effects on our health. Racism, prejudice, lack of access to health care, access to lethal means and drugs, crime, poverty, and similar attributes are all detrimental to our health. Evidence has shown that persistent stress caused by our environment can take decades off our lives. Public health has identified all of these kinds of problems, but has also identified many solutions as well. Let's take a dreadful example of one of the many solutions and problems that public health has followed: suicide. Being the 10th leading cause of death in the United States, suicide took 47,000 lives in 2019, the most recent year that we have data for. An additional 1.38 million are estimated to have attempted in that year alone. Humans are very resilient creatures, so one would assume that it would take quite a bit to push humans over the edge. That theory is true. Thanks to public health, we now know a lot of those risk factors associated with increased suicide risk. We also know about protective factors and warning signs for suicide. Public health professionals were able to take the big picture of suicide using trends in the data and persistency in clinical aspects. And from that, they were able to derive suicide prevention strategies, post-vention programs, and even clinical treatments to help with suicide. But don't just take my word for it. Let's go visit our friends online at the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And here we are, afsp.org. This is the website for the national chapter, although it's a great representation of all the local and state chapters. There's a wide variety of resources that you can come to here. This is a public health organization. They can give you referrals or links to places you might be able to find what you need, such as this tab. They want to encourage you to lobby, get political, establish programs, and even research suicide, taking practical macro-level approaches to the subject rather than interventional clinical level ones. They leave those for mental health professionals. They encourage you to join and get involved, and they also want you to learn about suicide, the research they've done, what we know, and what we want to know. So maybe suicide isn't your priority. Maybe it's tobacco use, violence, access to care, safety. Whatever it may be, public health branches into all parts of our life because ultimately our life depends on our health. So the next time that you see a new vaccine that you're contemplating, a mask mandate, or read that no smoking sign, remember what public health is about. It's about us, people. It's about communities. Communities made up of individuals just like you.